Ciao, friends. So today we're going to talk about God as El Roy, the God who sees. And so this isn't the general sense of seeing. This isn't God on his mighty throne, like just overlooking, overseeing everything. This is God as El Roy with this divine telescope peering into your life, fine-tuning into your life, onto your tear-stained cheeks, into your weary heart. It's the God who sees so crisply and so deeply and so intently. It's the same God who scans the stars and the planets, fine-tunes that lens into your life. God sees you. He sees your story. He sees your struggles, even the ones that the world doesn't see. He sees the things that keep you up at night. He sees your walk. Maybe you showed up to your life lately feeling a little invisible, right? Forgotten in your grief or your heartache, overlooked professionally, unheard in your relationships. However you find yourself, maybe your wilderness season is right in front of you, and prayers oftentimes seem like these whispers to an empty sky, and you're like, God, do you even see me? Do you even hear me? Maybe that's not for every instance of your life, but maybe there's little pieces of it where you're struggling, right? El Roy, the God who sees every wilderness season in your days. He comes close and he meets us there. And so for the God who meets us in those places, I want us to turn to Genesis 16 and meet Hagar in her places. Her story intertwines very intimately with Abraham and Sarah. And we know before they were Abraham and Sarah, they were Abram and Sarai. I encourage you to read all of Genesis 16. I'm not going to read it all, but I want you to understand the full story. We're going to pick up right in the middle. We see Hagar, and she is on the run. She was an Egyptian slave, and she was caught in the middle of a situation and circumstance that she never chose for herself. She was forced into. And then after that situation, Hagar was used and discarded. And we find her, and she's weary, she's alone, she's vulnerable, and she is very pregnant. So Genesis 16, verses 7 and 8, the angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was the spring that is beside the road to Shur. And he said, Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going? So there's so much symbolism in where we find Hagar. Shur was the path that led back to Egypt. Okay, it was a place on the way back to Egypt, and she was on the run from a whole lot of pain. Shur, S-H-U-R, was a place that was desolate, and it represented the lonely place. And so I thought it was really interesting that that's where the angel of the Lord decided to meet her, in this lonely place. I love that we find her near a spring in the desert. It reminds me of Isaiah, and we've talked about so many times how unexpected. I was reading through this chapter and I just kept saying, how unexpected. But isn't that just like God, to show up in these unexpected places, right? So the other thing I love about these two verses is the way the angel of the Lord addresses her, like his words to her. He knew exactly who she was. He said her by name. He knew exactly what her title was. He told her. He saw her in this place already, but then the questions of where she came from and where she was going, I thought those were so tender. See, the Lord always is gently drawing us in. He'll never be aggressive. He'll never pull us in. Well, he might. He might hem us in when we're in, real danger and self-sabotage. But when he's like drawing us to intimacy, he'll never be forceful. He'll inquire, and sometimes it'll be slow and soft and a whisper. These questions, where have you come from and where are you going, were so tender and full of so much care for Hagar. If you continue reading, you're going to see God acknowledges her circumstances. He acknowledges her pain. He doesn't ignore it. He never ignores the pain. God gives Hagar a future that actually includes her unborn son. He gives a prophecy over who her son is going to become. This is proof that in all things, God weaves it together for his will and his purpose, right? Doesn't mean all things are good, but he weaves it for his good and his will and his purpose. He uses all the things, even the pain. So after Hagar's encounter with God, she so beautifully gave God the name El Roi. So in Genesis 16:13, she gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. You are the God who sees me. For she said, I have now seen the one who sees me. There's something really beautiful to pull from Hagar's story and God as El Roi because of her conversations with God. Hagar ended up returning to the situation that she was running from. God told her to go back. We might look at that situation and say, what, God, how could you ever do that? But when Hagar went back, she went back to the same circumstance, but she went back different because she knew God in a different way. Her circumstances never changed, but she was reassured that she wasn't alone. She wasn't going back into this situation alone. The same God that met Hagar in the wilderness is the same God who shows up in our lives today, no matter what we're going through. So my question for you is, where in your wilderness are you desperate to be seen? Where are the places where you look at in your life that you just say, God, if only you could see this place. If only you could put your hand here, it would be okay. Because the flip side of that is that he does already see the place and he is already in the place. Friends, where in your life do you need to rest in the truth that El Roi sees you? He made you. You were beautifully and wonderfully made, and he sees you. Easy to forget in this life, right? We get overwhelmed with the tangibility of life. It's easy to forget. But we get to remember that El Roi is our God who sees, and he loves us, and we are his so intimately. We are his. My friends, I hope the story of Hagar was helpful in seeing who God is in your life. I hope that seeing him as El Roi, the God who sees, the God who is attentive, the God who so tenderly cares, brings a little bit of peace and calm to your bones today. As always, I hope today's the best day ever. And remember, no matter what, there's always something to be grateful for. Cheers.